Oh yes, at the Dade County Health Department and some hospitals. All right, so hello folks, this is Dr. Oscar Hernandez, board certified internist and pediatrician. Today we are interviewing premium hand sanitizer. Well, we're really not interviewing premium hand sanitizer, but since it's here, I'm going to use a little bit of it as we start our brief segment today. And guess what our segment is about? You know the old YMCA thing? Well, today it's the C that counts. We're talking about the coronavirus. Now, we usually talk about other health-related issues here that have to do with weight and diet and eating habits and medications for weight loss and stuff like that. But today we have a showstopper. We're putting on the brakes on that, and we're going to talk about what everybody's talking about. And before I tell you much about coronavirus and who needs to be tested and so on as of today, which is March 4th, 2020, and these things have been changing over the past few days, and every few days we got some new thing that we're changing. But what we want to do is first put things in perspective. Does anybody know how many people, how many Americans, we're not talking about worldwide numbers now, how many Americans have died in the past 10 years of flu-related illness? Yes, that old tired subject, influenza A, influenza B. Here's the number. About 355,000 dead Americans in the past year. In the 2018-2019 flu season, we had approximately 45 million infected Americans and a whopping 31 to 34,000 cases of dead people from flu in the United States of America. We're not talking about the Democratic Republic of the Congo here. We're talking about good old USA, you know, the flag and apple pie and 4th of July. So how many people do we lose a day in motor vehicle accidents in the United States? About 3,000. These are all very sad statistics. But the reason I mention all these statistics, and you can find these at the National Transportation Safety Board website for motor vehicle accidents and at the CDC website for the flu. Don't Google up coronavirus, Google up CDC website data for the flu. You're going to find it there. Anyway, I have copies. If you need anything, by the way, copies of anything I say, info@metromedfl.com. I'll be happy to send you citations and quotations and so on. So on February 20th, we did a radio program. We do a weekly radio program here in Miami on 90.9 Life FM, and it was about coronavirus. And what I tried to do at that time is the same thing I'm trying to do now a few weeks later, is put things in perspective, because there's no point in setting your hair on fire or going crazy buying tons of my little friend here that we were interviewing earlier today, the hand sanitizer. You're just going to exhaust supplies for people who really do need that stuff, like me, because I see sick people all the time. So here's the skinny on who needs testing. If you have the sniffles, if you have the cough, if you have a cold, please don't go to your doctor or emergency room trying to go get testing for coronavirus. It's probably not indicated. Now, today I listened to a program from the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Florida. And here are the three groups that need testing. A, if you've been to a zone of high density coronavirus, novel form 19, N19 exposure, like China, like Hong Kong, which is part of China, like Iran, right? These are places that are high exposure, and you probably need to be tested if you came in and get symptoms of coronavirus. If you are not having symptoms of coronavirus, you probably don't need testing. Which brings us to, what are the symptoms? The symptoms are high fever. Fever over 101 is considered a high fever. Difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, coughing, those are important symptoms. The sniffles do not qualify. So, cough, high fever, difficulty breathing, or a lot of phlegm. You're not breathing the way you usually know how to breathe, right? And this isn't like the cold you had last year. You need to be tested because you've been in those areas of high exposure. Group 1. Group 2. If you have been in close contact with someone who has that history, who went to an area of high exposure, who had symptoms, and now you're getting symptoms, Group 2. Group 3 is for hospitalized patients with significant respiratory problems who we've tested for other things and they don't have it. They don't have pneumonia from a usual bacterial source. They don't have influenza A, influenza B, and so on. This is the group that needs testing, the third group that needs testing. So here's what to do some common sense things to avoid getting flu, coronavirus, the common cold, all kinds of things that we need to think about beyond coronavirus, which is exceptionally rare. Even though we've had almost 100 cases in the U.S. as of the day of this taping, it is still exceptionally rare. We've had 3 cases documented. There are others in evaluation in the state of Florida as of today, March 4th, 2020. But the 2 cases that we've had in Tampa are one woman who came from China and then her close friend who also got exposed. And then there was another fellow in another county, and we're really not sure how he got the coronavirus. So be vigilant, be aware. If you're going to cough, this is called the elbow. Actually, that's the elbow. This is called the antecubital area. If you're going to cough or sneeze and you're in public, or even if you're in private, you've got your best friend right here, the antecubital fossa. You go, oh, and that's how you properly sneeze. Don't use your hand. If you're an old gentleman and you wear a handkerchief, please get rid of it. It's the most infectious piece of attire that anybody could carry. Okay, so you use a Kleenex or a nose wipe or something, but your sleeve hopefully is always with you if you have a long sleeve thing. If you don't have a long sleeve thing, a long sleeve shirt, you still use your elbow, because it's unlikely that you're going to shake hands with your antecubital fossa. It's unlikely that you're going to shake hands with your antecubital fossa with anybody, or that you're going to caress your wife or your child with your antecubital fossa. And use your brain. As soon as you have one of these, just wipe it on that little fossa there. It's got to have at least 70% alcohol. Don't drink it, folks. It's not for that. All right. So the other thing you need to remember is to use this. Use this 2 or 3 times a day. If you're in a place where you're interacting with people and you're touching people like I am, you have one of these deals available. You should, be doing a little pump. But you know what? I've been doing that for years. For years. Since I was in medical school, I was taught to sanitize my hands after touching every patient. So use common sense things. If you're sick, don't go to work. If your kid is sick, don't go to work. Does that have to do with coronavirus? Well, it has to do with coronavirus. It has to do with the common cold. It has to do with the flu. It has to do with all these things. All right. Well, that is our lightning round on coronavirus, on perspective, on who should be treated, on simple ways of avoiding not just that, but other infectious illnesses. If you don't have access to one of these deals, please have access to soap and water. The correct way of using soap and water, I know your mother taught you this when you were a little child. You rinse, and then you take the soap and you scrub for 20 seconds. That's a 1 and a 2, followed by 0. 20 seconds. And then you rinse it off again. All right, that's all we have for today. We'll talk again soon about whatever you want to talk about. Remember, if you have questions or concerns, anything you want to ask me, info@metromedfl.com. I will be happy to answer your questions.